What's going on, everyone? Scott here. Welcome back to the channel. So we are inching ever closer to Survivor Season 50 in the hands of the fans. We are just a handful of days away from the premiere of the 50th season here of Survivor. Now, after the end of Survivor 49, if you did watch any of those videos, I did say at the end of 49 that before 50 started, we wanted to go through, do some new era rankings, Survivor rankings overall. So here is the first one. We are going to rank the new era, so Survivor 41 till 49. We're going to rank all 9 winners. We are also going to be ranking the new era seasons and whatnot, and then we're going to obviously be previewing season 50 before we get here on Wednesday. So this one's going to go through all 9 winners, and you just give a little blurb about my case, why I have them in said ranking. But anyway, before we do jump in, if you could just hit that like and subscribe button down there. We'll have more Survivor content on the channel leading up to the premiere of Survivor 50, and then we'll have recaps for every single episode throughout Survivor 50. So just make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a video. So let's just jump right in, and we're going to start at number 9. We're going to start at 9, work our way down to 1. So starting at number 9, we're going to go with Survivor Season 43 winner, the Gabler himself, Gabler. I thought he played a solid game. He played an under-the-radar game for the most part. I think one of the biggest moves that he made was the Ellie vote. You know, Ellie was caught, it was around the mergatory, if you will, and was kind of caught, got kind of wind of her going through his bag, and he didn't like that. He was able to swing the vote at that mergatory to get her out. He also won the first immunity challenge. He was in with Jesse as well for another huge move in this game, although I'd give that move kind of more to Jesse at the final 6 of blindsiding Cody there, but he was heavily involved in that as well. Cassidy and Owen also, in that final 5, moving towards the final stages of the game, really underestimated him, and everyone really underestimated him. That's why he gave himself and was known as Gabler, because he was just kind of hiding underneath, and he made a few moves when he needed to, but really just hung under the radar for most of the game, but had a couple nice moves, as we said, Ellie being in on the Cody blind side as well. And then also, he made fire at the fire making challenge at the final 4 fire making to get himself into 3. He set the fire making record. So that was very impressive. The final tribal council as well. He defends his relationship-based game, which I do think is a big part, and probably one of, I know it's outwit, outplay, outlast. I do think the relationship part is such a huge part of the game. Everyone wants to say, oh, it's just a game, it's XYZ, but when you're out there in the game, those relationships do matter, and I think he did have enough relationships over there clearly to get the win. And I think I have him at 9 because I do think that Cassidy overall played a better game, and a lot of people think that as well. There was a lot of talk when the season went on about possible jury corruptment or whatever at Ponderosa and whatnot. We don't have to dive into all of that because I do respect the game that Gabler played. I just personally think that Cassidy played a better game. That's the only reason there. But do have to respect him for, one, no one wrote his name down all game, obviously until the final tribal council when you want people to write your name down. But also how he donated all the money to veterans. But have to respect that. Obviously, first time that's happened in the history of Survivor. So hats off to him for that. That was an incredible move, but or incredible gesture by him after winning that $1 million. But overall, like I said, solid game, under the radar game. Made a handful of moves when he needed to, and had better relationships at the end that got him that move. Even though it was probably a consensus that Cassidy probably played the better game at that point. At number 8, I have Survivor Season 41 winner, Erica. Erica is one of my favorite players from the new era. She's our first new era winner, and didn't see a lot of her in the beginning. Really, the first handful of episodes did not see a lot of her. The kind of fake merge, the first kind of mergatory, is really where we start to see her moves and her gameplay. She was the first to do the hourglass, smash the hourglass, change the outcome of the game at the merge, and that's where we see kind of her game change and start to see more of her strategy and gameplay as we move throughout the rest of the game. Episode 10 worked a lot with Shan, and was close with her ally Ricard, and worked close with her ally and Ricard, should I say, to get Shan out there, getting towards the end. At that point, Shan was, kind of one of the bigger players in that season at the time, and she was really in with Ricard to help get her out at that time, and I think that was a big move for her. And then at the final five challenge, she won an advantage, help her in the challenge, and then at the final four, Xander really underestimates her at the four, brings her with him to the final three, and then at the final tribal council, absolutely unreal. Explaining her game. And then as she kind of said all season, and her final tribal council kind of encapsulate all that she was a lion dressed like a lamb the whole game, and they didn't see her. So again, kind of not really comparing the games, but in terms of kind of under the radar, similar to Gabler, under the radar, but I felt like Erica made more moves and had more say in moves throughout the game. That gives her this number 8 spot. And like I said, she's one of my favorite players from the new era season in general, and a very deserving winner. And she definitely, there was no controversy about her win either, as there was with Survivor 43. She was, of that final three, she was definitely, she was the winner, and, the best player of that final three. And she was able to get out those other targets, prior, and even going back, the Shan vote, and then, Ricard going home, and, whatnot. So she got out everyone she needed to going up until the final tribal, to set herself up, and explained her game incredibly well at the final tribal. So I have Erica at number 8. Next up, Survivor Season 46, one of my 2 or 3 favorite seasons of the new era of Survivor, and really, honestly, within the top 10, top 8, top 10 of the whole run of Survivor. Season 46 winner, Kenzie. One of my favorite seasons, as I said. But she was on the Disaster Tribe to start. She kind of made it out with Q and Tiffany, and really was able to get through the game with her relationships. And it was really kind of, interesting, and I think good on her part. I think some of it wasn't really by her choice. It was her tribe of the people that she chose to play the game with in that 3. She had Tiffany, who she was really close with throughout the whole game, essentially, and they were on that tribe together at the beginning of the game. But then you also had Q, who was seen as a bigger threat because he was so out there and crazy and whatnot. So you always kind of had that distraction out there, and someone that's in your alliance too. So, but her number 1 ally, Tiffany, went out at 8. But the Kenzie, Charlie, Liz, and Ben alliance that was kind of formed towards the end of the game, that was able to make it to the end, really is, what kind of helped her get to that end game, especially after her number 1 ally went out there. But her social game got her the win. She had 2 immunity wins as well. But this one, Kenzie is a very deserving winner. And she deserved to win this game. She did have a strong finale or final 3 partner in Charlie. Charlie, I think this one, a lot of people thought, and probably could have been the second tie at Final Tribal. Obviously, we saw that going back to Ghost Island with Dom and Wendell, where then Laurel had to make the deciding winner pick in that one. Obviously chose Wendell in that one. I thought we were heading that direction with this one. They were splitting votes, and it was 1 vote off, and it was Charlie, who played an incredible game. I thought, similar relationship-based game, maybe had some more moves, but, similar kind of games, but Maria, who was Charlie's number 1 ally, feeling kind of burnt after, they kind of each went at each other, getting towards the end of the game, which, tends to happen with close allies who you've played a similar game with. So it was bound to happen, but she ended up voting for Kenzie. And that was kind of the deciding vote there for it not to be tied. and set up a chance for Charlie to win. But as I said, both very deserving. Kenzie, very deserving winner, and I have her ranked number 7 here on the New Era winners, and one of the best seasons of the New Era as well. And that's just not entertainment factor. There were a lot of players on that season. Obviously, we said Charlie, but I mean, Q was a player. Tiffany was a player. You go down the line. Hunter, you can think of, and you just go down the line. There was a lot of players on that season too. Kenzie come out on top. Hats off to Kenzie. At number 6, Survivor, season 44 winner, Jam Jam. Charisma and personality and relationship building throughout the game. And then had that strong 3 with Carolyn and Carson as well. But he was also strategic. He had the 1 individual immunity win in the game. And then in his pregame interview for Survivor 44, he said that he kind of wanted to play like Suri. And I think that kind of described a little bit how he played. He was, really heavily, had some, good, deep relationships with people, but then was heavily involved in the strategy portion of things as well. And was really able to convince people of stuff that he wanted to happen throughout the game. And, his, like I said, his strong relationships and strategy throughout is really what got him there at the end. But then also, too, he sat at the end with Carolyn, which was one of his 3, but then Carson went out at the fire making challenge. So he was kind of willing to sit there in a sense, or he almost could have sat there in a sense with that 3-person alliance. I'm curious how different it would have been considering they played pretty much the whole game together. How different that final 3 would have went if it was them 3 there at the end. But Jam Jam, again, very deserving winner and someone who at times was at the bottom of the tribe and used the relationship and whatnot to get him through the game, his relationship that he could build throughout the game to get him through. So Jam Jam we have at number 6. At number 5, one of my favorite New Era players, really one of my favorite players of all time, Marianne, winner of Survivor Season 42. She was in trouble early. She had an extra vote early. She had an idol early. Really kind of where we started to see her whole gameplay and strategy was pulling off that Omar blindside. And that was huge at the final 6. Omar had made a lot of strategic moves throughout. Marianne was in on him too, but the perception was kind of that Omar was kind of doing the bidding for all of this and was the mastermind behind the stuff. And, she was able to get that together to get Omar out there, who she was close with all game. The relationships, got her, through the end and got her through 5 as Mike played the idol for Marianne at 5. And then she got taken to the final 3 as well. And then the truth bomb, for me, this is, what kind of, maybe gave her an advantage of some of the other winners that we had listed beforehand, was that truth bomb that was dropped at Final Tribal. That's always kind of one of the things that you really want to have at Final Tribal. If you have something that no one really know about, or maybe only one person knew about during the game that you're able to kind of drop, is that something that maybe, and it's how you can turn it too. If you have something that, maybe you had this advantage or, this knowledge in the game, and if you can reveal it in a way like, oh, I could have done this, but I didn't need to do this because I had these relationships that got me through this. And she was kind of able to do that with the truth bomb, revealing her hidden idol that no one knew about in the game. And then again, she had multiple options to go to the end. And we saw that with the relationships that she kind of had, getting the idol played for her at 5, getting taken to final 3. So she really set herself up perfectly, especially with getting Omar out at that final 6. That blind side right there, getting Omar out. She really set herself up perfectly going to the end. And then her final tribal council was amazing. Not just the truth bomb, but explaining her game, throughout, and how she gave herself different options, the relationships she's built, and everything throughout the game. I thought that was incredible. I thought that was one of the best final tribal performances we've seen, and that's why she is one of my favorite Survivor players, Survivor winners of all time. And that's why we have her at number 5 on the New Era winners list. Next up, we're going with the fairly recent winner, Survivor Season 48 winner, Kyle. He had a clean social game pretty much throughout. Not saying he played a clean game like throughout, but his social game was clearly his social and his strategic game, should I say, were really kind of what drove him in this game. And, arguably, in my opinion, one of the best and definitely one of my favorite kind of hidden alliances, Kyle's alliance with Camilla throughout the game, where I know they even talked about it at the game, where we would kind of see like little 30-40 second clips of them getting together. Okay, here's the information I have, what's the information you have, what's the direction we're going. And that kind of secret alliance with Camilla, they knew they kind of couldn't go to the end together once, that they knew that they were going to use that as a reveal at Final Tribal, to help either one of them, whichever one was there. And I think having that, and then we saw it in the Final Tribal where, I forget if it was Joe or Eva, was kind of explaining something in their game that they thought they pulled off, and Kyle, like, he's trying to start to jump in, and Camilla's like, I got you. I thought that was one of the coolest Final Tribal moments there. And Camilla kind of backing up the story, like, hey, no, we were working together this whole time. We were working this game from both sides. Camilla maybe at the bottom at times, and then Kyle was in this majority alliance for a good amount of the game, and kind of able to manipulate the game how they wanted to get to and get to the end, with the three that he wanted. Joe and Eva, who were in that majority alliance for most of the game and played a pretty similar game, and he was kind of able to differentiate himself, especially, I think, a big part, maybe I'm putting too much stock into it, but that hidden alliance with Camilla, I think, was a big part of that, and I think what got him a lot of votes at the end. But he had multiple ways to the end. He had multiple ways that he could get to the end, and was working both sides, as we said. He had 4 immunity wins. Awesome Final Tribal showing, as I said. Kyle, he was kind of able to differentiate himself as to kind of, being more strategic than both of them. And then, like I said, that hidden alliance with Camilla, I think, did play a big part, like saying like, hey, no, I wasn't just insulated in this group and, whatever. He was like, nope, I had this established relationship as well. They were kind of just locked into this, but I was playing all sides. So that brings us into our top 3. And at number 3, I have our most recent winner of Survivor Season 49, and that is Savannah. Savannah, I thought, played an incredible game. She started out the game, she was kind of on top for a good amount of the first part of the game. Merge kind of happens. One of her closest allies gets voted out. Then she has to kind of, make up and play from the bottom for a good amount of the second half of the game. And she got through with a solid Tres Leches 3-person alliance with her, Sophie, and Rizzo. And she was very dominant in challenges. She tied the all-time record for individual immunity challenge wins with 4. And then she also won that Final 4 fire making against her. Like, it was the Tres Leches alliance. It was Savannah, Rizzo, and Sophie. But Sophie kind of came into that alliance last, as Savannah and Rizzo kind of had the original, kind of alliance together. They were together a little bit longer than Sophie was brought in. So they were seen as Savannah and Rizzo as players who, obviously they were on alliance, but made a lot of the same moves. So Rizzo even kind of thought at that. Like, Savannah wanted to go to the end with the 3, but Rizzo was kind of like, I kind of wanted, not that he wanted to get Savannah out, but he was like, I want to differentiate myself and give himself the best opportunity to differentiate his game from Savannah and Sophie at the end. So he wanted that on his belt. So he was fine going to the fire making. We saw Savannah struggle with it a little bit during the day, whatever, but she was able to pull it out and get that fire making win over Rizzo, which I think definitely helped put her over the top as well. Sophie had an incredible Final Tribal as well. Definitely a deserving player to be in there and come in as the runner-up. But Savannah was dominant. She was dominant throughout the game, and the way she was kind of, I know, she maybe rubbed people the wrong way at times, but I think at times that's also just due to having to play from the bottom. And, she kind of had to scrap her way there. She trusted her alliance, and it's not like she was in a majority alliance. That Tres Leches alliance, they were at the bottom, and they were completely out of numbers, and they were just able to squeeze their way through another vote. And I think a lot of that also had to do with Rizzo and his, idle shenanigans, if you will. Like, am I going to play it? Am I not going to play it? Whatever. I definitely think that helped the 3 as well. Maybe in some, like, hey, split votes, or hey, what if plays this? What if plays this for Savannah. But yeah, Savannah, incredible. 4 individual immunity wins, and just kind of fighting her way back from the bottom after being kind of at the top, getting knocked down to the bottom, being able to kind of slowly towards the second half of the game, work her way back up, and then win the game was absolutely incredible. That's why we have her as the number 3 new era winner ranking. Now we head to probably, I would say this player is in my top 5 all-time favorite players of all time. Definitely up there all time for me, top 5 winners of all 49 seasons. We have Survivor season 47 winner Rachel, and she was the definition of adaptable, and I think that's why I loved her game so much. She was blindsided by Sam, Sierra, and Andy, taking Annika out early on, who she was really close with, but multiple times her allies kind of blindsided her, and some people may say that, like, oh, she didn't have a good, kind of social cue on the game. And while I understand that's a fair point, I think you just kind of, if you look at just that moment, that's a fair assessment. But if you look at how she was able to respond from that each time, I think that what gives her an extra notch in her belt for how impressive that was. And people wanted her out too when they were getting there. Like, her and Genevieve genuinely had a war kind of at the end. It was like, I remember they were building it up like, oh, it's Harry Potter and Voldemort. Like, only one of us can live, one of us must die, like, whatever. She was, building herself up throughout the game and was being seen as a threat, and she was kept getting through and still kept bouncing back. Again, she tied the record, just like Savannah did as well. Rachel tied the individual immunity wins record with 4, including making the final one, or winning the final 4 challenge to choose who was making fire and whatnot. And like I said, she was a constant threat throughout the game, but still only had 3 votes on her throughout the game, including one of the best moves of the new era with her idol play. And this was at the Andy vote that came towards the end. Andy got voted out and was the 13th person voted out, the 6th jury member. This was on day 23, and they were trying to get Genevieve out the time before, but then they pulled off, which is another one of the best moves of the new era, Operation Italy, which got Carolyn out, and kind of then from that, we see in that episode that Rachel gets kind of put at the bottom. We see her kind of spy on the group that pulled off Operation Italy and Teeny. Once they get back to camp, she spies, gets some information. She confides in Sue that she is an idol and they're okay. And then she ends up losing the individual immunity challenge, and she kind of lays it on thick to Sam and Andy that, like, why did you just hand Genevieve $1 million? Like, she's clearly, the biggest threat in this game. She was perceived as the biggest threat in this game at that time, and you guys just handed her $1 million. And they played it up because they were close throughout this game. Obviously, started on the same tribe and everything, and was laying it on thick. And then Andy did himself a disservice and was trying to play for her jury vote, at camp before heading to tribal. And that idol that she kept a secret, only told Sue about, she was able to pull that out for an incredible reveal and get Andy out. And she even said, as he was heading out, like, you were very convincing today, but not in the way that you thought. But I thought Rachel, she also had a really good final tribal. Sam, as well, was putting up a fight. He went out swinging at that final tribal and was definitely deserving. Some stuff you can kind of say about him, too. He kind of was kept being left at the bottom, too, was able to fight till the end. But Rachel, very deserving winner. I think the second best winner of the new era. But I think that's how strong this top 2 or 3 is, because I think she's a top 5 or so winner of all time. Her adaptability and able to just keep going forward, her individual immunity wins and whatnot, that idol play as well. Absolutely loved Rachel's season, and that's why I have her as the second best winner of the new era. But that only leaves one, and that is Survivor season 45 winner D. And I think this is probably a pretty unanimous for everyone that Dee was the most dominant winner of the new era to this point. She was in control for most of the game. She had a strong four-person Reba 4 alliance with Austin, Mama J, Julie, and those were kind of, she had a number one. They were both kind of her number one, and then Drew was there as well, who was, closely attached to Austin as well. And then they obviously had to turn on him at one point, but she was able to pull off multiple blindsides and kind of get into the end of the game. She was able to kind of flip it at that day 21 tribal council where everyone was voting for Julie, but she was able to tell Julie right before, like, hey, everyone's going to vote for you. I'm going to vote for you, but you're going to play this idol and you're going to get through and we're going to vote out Emily. And that's exactly what happened. Emily was gaining kind of some steam there too. She was becoming a player at that time. She was a very good player throughout the season, but she definitely was growing throughout the game and was becoming a threat at that point. But then the next week as well, Drew was able to get Drew out, who was close with Austin, definitely was closer with Austin. Obviously, they were part of the four, but she had to go get Drew out and was able to pull it out as well, leaving Austin out of the vote as well, whereas Austin is the one that told Dee that they were going after Julie just the tribal council prior. So able to pull that move out to get Drew out as well. Incredible final tribal as well. She was really good in challenges, as we said, but only had 2 votes against her in the game, 3 individual immunity wins, including winning that final 4 immunity challenge. And a smart move for her at that time, she took Austin, who obviously everyone knew they played the game close together, didn't want to give Austin that chance to win that final fire making challenge, where he could have, that could have been a notch in his resume that maybe made the vote, swing at that final tribal. Didn't want to give him that shot, so sent Jake and Katura there. Jake gets the win, gets to the final 3. And she was able to explain her game perfectly there at the final tribal and get the win, even with someone in her, main alliance and probably her number 1 or 1A, 1B, if you will, and Austin being there as well. But very impressive game, one of the most dominant games, definitely of the new era. But same thing I said with Rachel. I think both of these winners in Rachel and Dee are both top 5, top 7, for sure top 10 winners of all of Survivor if you go back all the way to the beginning. So very impressive there. So that's our list. We have 9 Gabler, 8 Erica, 7 Kenzie, 6 Jam Jam, 5 Marianne, 4 Kyle, 3 Savannah, 2 Rachel, and number 1 Dee. And that is our ranking of the new era winners. So we are going to see a couple of these people back for Survivor 50. We are going to see Dee back. We are also going to see Savannah back, and we are going to see Kyle back as well for Survivor 50. Curious how they'll do. Obviously, they will already know about Dee and Kyle's win, but this Savannah win will not have aired yet. But they probably have to know that either Savannah or Rizzo won coming from the season, and that's what, even watching some of the pregame interviews, most people are kind of clocking that they're assuming one of them won. So I'm curious how they will do, how the winners will do on Survivor 50. But anyway, that'll do it for this one. And as I said, we will be back. We are going to do a new era season ranking, just the season ranking overall. We're going to have that out as well. Then we'll also have a video previewing and predicting Survivor Season 50, how we think everything will go down, looking at the tribes and whatnot, and giving our winner predictions for Survivor Season 50 coming up right here around the corner. So anyway, that'll do it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.